Hello, welcome to the iTutor Math Show. I am your host, Bobby Ozuna. Today is Thursday, February 21st, 2019. Filming in front of a live studio audience. We are live.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
All right, hello, welcome to the iTutor Math Show. I'm your host, Bobby Ozuna. Again, today's Thursday, February 21st, 2019. Today's going to be the first of possibly a 2 or 3 part series entitled The Fundamentals. Basically, I don't have a fancy title, but essentially we're covering what are the fundamentals. It's answering the big question. What are the fundamentals that my child needs to know so that I, as a parent, can help my child be successful mathematically? That's a big question. Those of you who follow me on Facebook and join the community brain dump sessions that I have live every Monday night on Facebook, that's the biggest topic, the biggest question, the biggest ask from people is what can I do to help my child at home regardless of grade level? That's a very important part. Regardless of grade level, where can I start with my child? Especially, as I say every week, if I don't know the mathematics or if I'm not sound mathematically or you as a parent or a grandparent or aunt, uncle, dog, or cat, whoever's helping the child, if you feel like, hey, I don't have that strong foundation that gives me the confidence to feel like I'm actually benefiting my child, I'm hoping that if you subscribe to this channel and you're watching every week, if you're following me on Facebook and you watch those videos, or you're just subscribed to this channel and you watch the recap that I upload, I hope that you're going to get from me more than anything the lesson that you do not have to be super sound mathematically to be a parent or a guardian that truly helps a child progress mathematically. In my method of teaching, the less you know about mathematics, the better math teacher you are, because a true teacher asks questions that lead to enlightenment, the light bulb moment, not shows a child how to get the answer. Telling a child how to get the answer, showing them is very different than showing them how to discover the answer. So again, if you're worried about, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do the math, so I can't tell them what to do, that's okay. You don't want to tell them what to do. You want to learn how to coach them to a place that they discover for themselves how to do the mathematics. If you watch some of my previous shows, if you watch specifically Show Don't Tell, you'll see that you can guide them with the right questions to help lead your child to a place of enlightenment, and that's going to be true learning, and then repetition of the same mathematical concept over and over and over again, like everything we do, you get true understanding, and that's the wisdom and knowledge that we hope to obtain. So tonight I'm going to talk about, just to show you the topic for tonight, I'm going to talk about the fundamentals again. This is fundamentals part 1. I don't know if it's part 1 of a 2-part series or a 3-part series. I'm not really sure yet, to be honest. I just know that this is a very, very important topic for a lot of people. A lot of people want to know, hey, where do I begin? Where do I begin? So if you're one of those parents, you're like, okay, look, I'm at the base level. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to take over ownership at home to guide my child with love, right? With love. And that's not an easy thing. And I say that because when it comes to our children and it comes to helping our children with homework, it's very easy to let the emotions that are usually triggered by the fear of them failing, the emotions that come up, they're usually expressed as anger towards your child. I'm a dad. I've been there. I'm not different than you. It's harder with your own children sometimes, so listen to me. Separating the emotion is not an easy thing, but I want to encourage you as a parent. You're there to help them because you love them. Yes, you're afraid for them to fail. Yes, you don't want them to fail. You don't want them to get held back. You don't want them to get bad grades. You worry about all these things that can affect them psychologically from one little grade or one little test or one state standardized test. I get that. But when it's time to sit down with your child and start focusing on, hey, this is help. This is practice, not homework. Homework is a negative word. When a child, a student, even me as an adult, when I think about homework, I'm like, homework, right? It's practice at home, which is a safe place to mess up and miss every problem. So remember, when you're working with your children, if they continually make mistakes, That's the place to make mistakes. If this was a football team, that's the place to drop the ball and continue practicing until we start catching the ball, right? Same thing with hitting the ball, same thing with volleyball, same thing with an instrument. So again, tonight we're going to talk about fundamentals. Where can I begin? So I'm going to we're going to touch a couple of things only tonight. Let me go ahead and switch over. I'll just go ahead and dive right in. So fundamentals, part 1. Again, I don't know if this is going to be a multi-part series. I know it's going to be at least 2 parts. It could grow from that. If you've got feedback, curiosities, or questions, you could reach out to me and we'll expand it. Where are we going? So remember, we're here to focus on how do I master the fundamentals at home. Tonight, we're focusing on 3. 3 things, and they're so simple that the content for these 3 items is available on pretty much one sheet of paper. So that's the plus for parents like, oh my goodness, this could be overwhelming. Be relieved to know that everything that your child needs to learn from at least part 1 of this show can be taught on one sheet of paper. And when I'm done, I'm going to show you some things that you could do at home to make it engaging. If you have younger kids, it's going to be a lot easier. I'll be honest. If you got younger children, it's going to be a lot easier to engage in some of the hands-on activities. But here's the caveat, and this is very, very important, because if you are a parent at home or you're an adult student, because I have students, and I'm going to end up doing a series covering the GED math specifically. If you're an adult student or you're a high school student and you realize, or you have a high school student and you realize, hey, I'm not strong in these particular areas myself. I'm still not super fundamentally sound with my multiples, my exponents, my perfect squares. It doesn't matter that some of the practice might seem a little elementary. Remember, the overall goal for me, if you were my student and you were the family that I was working with, the overall goal is to prepare you or your child, that means adult student or the child of a parent and a family, to prepare you for college level mathematics, which is higher level thinking for yourself, and having the aptitude to know how to find answers to mathematics. But having strong mathematical skills is important for everyone. So if you got a child in 2nd or 3rd grade, you got a child in 9th, 10th, or 11th grade, or if you're an adult student trying to get your GED, all of this is pertinent to you, and I want to remind you. And if you're a parent that says, you know what, I want to get my skills up, this is the same for you. It goes out to you. So 3 things tonight I'll touch on. Try to keep it brief. Number 1, multiples. Number 2, your exponents and your perfect squares. And note the little side note. So 1 through 15 on multiples, 1 through 15 on exponents, and perfect squares 1 through 225. What does that mean, Bobby? Well, let's look at that. What does that mean? Here it is in simplicity. So I do not like the times table mention. I don't like the name times table, okay? I always tease my kids and joke around with them. They're like, I need to learn my times table. I'm like, pull out a watch. This isn't a class on time. That's what people call it. That's the norm. But basically, this is your list of multiples, okay? So everything the child needs to know for this particular lesson to start building some base foundations right here on the sheet. So let's look at it. What is my list of multiples? Let's break this down and go back a step. What is multiplication? Multiplication is nothing more than adding a lot. So I always tell people, if a child knows how to add, then the opposite of addition is subtraction. If you know how to subtract, you know how to add. If you know how to add a lot or add the same number multiple times, hence the times table, then you know how to multiply, and then the opposite of multiplication is division. So again, using this list, how do I use this list? All of us, we grew up, wrote memorization. Sometimes there's no way around it. You know, memorization's no fun, but you know what? You got to memorize your social, your address, your date of birth, things like that. This is just one of those things. But again, we're going to talk about some things that you could do to make it a little bit more engaging. So starting with number 1, the multiples, right? Multiples 1 through 15. Here on this list is a list of multiples from 1 through 15. What should your child know? They should know their quote-unquote times table. You know, so they should know their 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. They should know their 8s. They should know their 10s. And don't stop them there. Keep them going at least to 15. Now, why 15, Bobby? Why not something bigger? Well, here's the thing. All the years that I've been teaching, and especially all the work I've done specific to standardized tests, like the STAR test, the previous tax test, entrance exams into college, and then GED as an example, what I have found over the years is if you have a base foundation for your multiples of 1 through 15, and then the exponents and square roots I'm about to discuss, it's going to help you, because here's the problem that happens. When you're working, I'm going to come back over to me for a second. When you're working on math and a child is working on a test and maybe they're trying to go to a new grade level, whatever, when we run into the fundamental mathematics that we don't have a firm foundation in, here's what happens. You get to the math problem, you see something, and this is common for everybody, and fractions is usually the killer. They'll see a math problem, and when we see that numerator slash denominator, something in our mind, for all of us, triggers this panic mode, and we automatically fall back to this, oh my God, fractions, I don't know fractions, and we shut off. The problem when you shut off is you probably miss the simplicity of the actual question being asked to where you could have probably got the question right, excuse me, but we turn off. We turn off when we face these things, these fundamental math elements that we're not completely fluent with, that we don't have pure confidence in our ability to do. So again, cutting back over, it's very, very important that your child knows at the base their multiples of 1 through 15. Now, if you look at the chart, it's really simple. You see the diagonal line going down from the top left to the lower right-hand corner. You see in yellow highlight, you see 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, all the way down to 225. At the second bullet point down at the bottom says exponents. You need to know and memorize at least 2 squared through 15 squared. What is an exponent? An exponent is nothing more than a type of multiplication problem. An exponent is taking a number and multiplying it by itself the number of times that it's been raised to the power. So at a base level, exponents, anything that is a square, the little 2 in the corner, that just means that number multiplied by itself twice. So looking at the chart, you look at 4 and 4, you meet them in, you go down from 4 and over from 4, they meet in the middle 16. What does that mean? That just means 4 times 4, not 4 times 2. That means the number 4 multiplied twice is 16. That means the number 5 multiplied twice is 25. The number 10 multiplied twice is 100. And 15 multiplied twice is 225. Those are your base exponents. A child should be able to look and know and say, oh, 5 squared is 25. 8 squared is 64. 11 squared, 121. 2 squared is 4, etc. You want your child to know these things so when they start addressing math problems as they develop over the years, this simple stuff, which again, standardized tests are flooded with base fundamental mathematics that kill a child and a student's ability to progress to the actual question being asked because they don't know the fundamentals. You want your child to know exponents, 1 squared through 225. 1 is the easiest one. If you miss any of those on 1, call me. We'll get you some help. Square roots, opposite that. So opposite of an exponent is a square root. So if a number times itself twice is the exponent answer, then the opposite is a square root, which is basically saying what number times itself created that number to begin with. So looking at 25, the square root of 25 is 5 because it takes 5 multiplied twice to equal 25. So going opposite from the lower right-hand corner to the top left-hand corner of the sheet, square root of 225 is 15, square root of 196 is 14, square root of 169 is 13, etc. That's it. That is the simplicity of it. The simplicity of a base fundamentals that you could start working with your child right now is, do they know their multiples or their times table list? I don't like that term, but you know it, and that's what they've taught us in America. If you know your multiples 1 through 15, if you know your exponents 1 squared to 15 squared, and then you know your square roots, they're perfect squares, 225 back down to 1. You've already on the path, and as you can tell from the sheet that I showed you, which I'll make it available for download if you want this particular sheet. You can find anything like it on the internet. I think I borrowed this one from someone on the internet years ago. There'll be a link in the description. I'm going to start publishing this stuff on a temporary website so you can go download. But essentially that's it. You want to just start working with your child, and you can make a plan that says, hey, you know what? In the next 2, 3, 4 months, and I said months because I don't want you to fall into the trap, parent. In school, they have a curriculum that says we're teaching a particular topic for X amount of days, 3 or 4 days, sometimes up to 2 weeks, if you're lucky. And then they have to move on to something else because schools are required to cover a certain curriculum in the 180-day school year. Make sense? You as the parent are the liberator of that compartmentalized time box that says, this is the only moment I have to learn something. For all math elements I'll be talking, for all the math elements I'll be teaching in the future, I'm telling you right now, don't do that to your child. Don't box them in. So ask yourself, well, how do I know when it's time to move on? When they've mastered it. That means they know it like they know their name. They know it like they know their address. They know it like they'll know their social or a phone number or how to turn on a phone or a car or computer. You want to reach a point that your child knows these things inside and out. Now, for some kids, that could be 2 or 3, 4 weeks of practice. For some kids, that could be 2 or 3, 4 months of practice. For adult students trying to get your GED or trying to go back to college and you're in remedial mathematics and you're working your way towards college mathematics, that could be 2 or 3, 4 months of your own private time getting a refresher. It's not wasted time to spend 4 nights a week, 20 minutes a night, strengthening your math skills because it's very important. It's what we lack in America. I've got hiccups or something tonight, excuse me. So, pretty simple. Let's go back and I'll show you. All right, so what can we do? What can we do, Bobby, to start practicing at home to make this a little bit more engaging? Simple. Here's your list. Remember, the key word is practice, not homework. Homework has a negative tone to it. A child thinks homework, even a parent thinks homework. They think something I have to do, it's forced to do, I don't feel like doing it, it's going to get me a grade, and if I make a mistake, I'm going to get a bad grade. Multiple bad grades, now I'm failing. Multiple failures, now I'm in trouble. You are the parent. You need to help liberate your children from that fear. This is a place to practice. This is the place to make mistakes because home is the safe place where they're surrounded by love. What can I do, Bobby? Deck of cards, bouncing ball, dice, flashcards, and written and verbal reviews. Let's talk about those real quick. I'll give you a couple examples. So what can you do with the deck of cards? Pretty simple. And I'll try to show you this online. So here we go. I got a deck of cards in my hand. What can we do with the deck of cards? Pretty simple. Let's just say you took out all picture cards, right? Say you got a young child at home and you want to ease them up to strengthen their skills. So we'll just say picture cards are out right now because picture cards could be 10s. Or maybe the queen is an 11 and what comes before that? The jack is a 10, queen is a 11, whatever, you pick. But you pick the numbers. So we got an assortment of cards, right? Number cards, pretty simple. You pass them out like you're playing war evenly. And you could play a simple game that says, hey, I drop a card, you drop a card, but you rotate taking turns determining, well, who's going to call out the type of math that we do. Here's the example. So let's say we drop down 2 cards. I drop down a card and it is a 9. And then my son drops down a card and it's a 4. But it's his turn to call out the math. So the minute we drop the cards, he says, multiply. So I immediately, I've got like a second, right? Because we're supposed to be doing this on the fly. I've got a second in my head to say 9 times 4 is 36. And then it's my turn. And then we swap cards. And then he drops a 10 and I drop a 6. But when we drop the cards, I call out addition. So if he's not paying attention, he might call out 60 and then he's wrong. If he is paying attention, he should say 16. That is an easy, fun, engaging way with a deck of cards. It doesn't cost you anything to practice multiplication. So drop it down 2 cards, saying 6 and 10, 60, 9 and 4, 36, etc. You could do the same thing with addition and you could do the same thing with subtraction. I wouldn't necessarily do it with division, not with a deck of cards, but if you could figure it out, leave me a comment and tell me how you did it. I'd love to hear it. So, deck of cards is a win. Easy win to practice at home. This is more engaging. This gives you time with your child, right? Not sending them to their room to do their homework. You're not helping them that way. You need to be engaged because your children are going to grow up doing the things that you do, the things that they think are important to you, or the things that they do. I tell people all the time. No one ever gave me a lesson on hosting cookouts on the weekend. But everyone I know in the neighborhood I grew up in grew up to have cookouts on Saturday and Sunday, even without a class. How did we do that? We did it by watching our community and watching our parents and the adults in our life. We grew up to emulate our surrounding. So if you're engaged with your child, they know this is important. They know that no matter how badly, listen to me, they know that no matter how badly you want to stop everything you're doing when you get home and watch my videos, that you're going to pause the internet, put away Facebook, put away social media, DVR your favorite show. If you're binge watching anyways, you can go back and watch it. They know it's important because you're going to engage with them. This is a great family time. 15 or 20 minutes of a game. Keep score. Let them beat you every now and then. You want to build that confidence. The other thing you can do is a bouncing ball. I don't have a bouncing ball on me, but I used to use a bouncing ball with children when they were younger, when I worked with younger kids. And what you could do, really simple. Multiplication facts. You can work on motor skills at the same time that you're working on multiplication facts. So here's how I played it. Took a bouncing ball, told them to get, 5, 6 feet away from me. I bounced the ball. It's got to bounce one time. They have to catch it with one hand. Doesn't matter which hand. They have to catch the ball with one hand. But when they catch it, they have to start the 8. So they go 8. And then they throw the ball back. It's got to bounce once. I catch it without dropping it, and I say 16. And then back to them. They say 24. And then whatever, right? So the object of the game is to get from the base number all the way to the 15th multiple, right? Without dropping the ball, making it bounce one time. They can switch hands. That makes it a lot more fun and engaging. Dice, same thing. I roll a dice, you roll a dice, or the parent rolls 2 dice. Whatever the numbers are, they've got to spit out the multiplication. That's an easy game you can play if your child is a little bit, and that's for people who need hands-on. Remember, there's different learning styles for children, and you can find out on the internet. There's tests that you can give your children to find out what is my child's learning style. Some people like lecture. Some people need hands-on, kinesthetic, something engaging, something that they touch, like the dice or a bouncing ball, something a little bit more active. Flashcards are for people who just like reading things. There's people who like holding books and just say, I'll just do the flashcards. You can download worksheets off the internet. You can download apps on the internet. You can just play free games on the internet that just help you with your multiplication facts or exponents or your perfect square roots. The last one is your written and verbal reviews, as I was saying earlier. What does that mean? That means having conversation out loud with your child. Hey, real quick, I'm going to ask, let's go over our 5s. I'll start. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And then you tell them, hey, you pick up from there. So you do a verbal review, because a verbal review helps your child stop and think and remember the picture that they've developed in their head for how they learned that, whether it was with a deck of cards, it was a worksheet. But you don't want to sit around and just make them cram memorization like we did when we were kids. Something engaging. So some kids prefer that learning style. Plus, it's a great challenge to them to force them to think, what is the answer? Written reviews are, hey, real fast, I'm going to give you a quick quiz. Go ahead and write out your multiples of your 13s. Go. You got 30 seconds. And they're writing them down. Or it's a verbal test. Or like I said, play some cards with them. Pretty simple. So outside of that, honestly, that pretty much wraps up. I've given you about at least 5 or 6 different ideas for how you can engage with your child at home. But more than that, more importantly than that, is you want them at a base level to start working on their multiples 1 through 15, their exponents 1 through 15, and their square roots 225 back down to 1. That will get them in the perfect place to start building that foundation. Remember, there's no time limit. Don't put the time limit on your child. The school is already going to lock them into a time based on a curriculum, based on a schedule, based by some law. You're home. You're the safe place. If it takes your child months longer than it takes someone else's child, don't worry about that. That's not your problem to worry about. Everyone learns everything in this world at a different pace. For me, mathematics is easy now as an adult. It was very difficult as a child. Instruments, playing music, learning a sport, everything takes time. So you want to be that safe place for them to learn at home. Because here's the thing, remember, it doesn't matter if they're in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th. They're going to need those skills later. And ultimately, we all need those skills to get through any type of remediation math at the college level, preparing them for college mathematics. So you want them to have those skills. You want them to be solid. And if that's the interim goal, it kind of alleviates the pressure of feeling like you have to do it overnight. Because depending on how old your child is, you have time. If you're an adult student, don't be embarrassed. Never be afraid. Self-awareness is the key to growth. If you don't know where you're at and you don't know where you're not going anywhere. I'll tell you that for a fact. So if you're an adult student and you're like, oh, I really don't know my multiples, don't be afraid. If you have a child, engage with them and tell them, I have to learn my multiples. Because that's going to be so liberating to your child. It's going to establish such a courage in them that they see from you that you were humble enough to say, I didn't know. And you are brave enough as an adult, despite all the things we have to do, to go back and learn it. You are going to be setting such a foundation for success in your child that's going to leave a legacy to their life long after we're gone. So that pretty much wraps up this show. Next week, we're going to dive into some other fundamental areas that you can start working with your child. In the meantime, I'd like to encourage you, if you're not already a subscriber, go out, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you know people, remember there's 51 million students in pre-K through 12th grade in public school system in America. If you know one of those families, or you know 50 million of them, send them my way, send them to the show. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you don't want to miss any of the activity from any other videos, don't forget to click the notification bell. You can find me on Facebook, which you'll find on the description if you're already not connected with me on Facebook. And you can join me at Community Brain Dump Monday nights, 9 o'clock live, where I basically build the script for the show, and you're allowed a chance to throw out your thoughts, your comments, your concerns to help me build this show. Again, I thank you for your support, and have a good night. We'll see you next week.